Welcome back. We've been considering the spiritual discipline of fasting as an extension of our prayer life. We've seen that it was a part of the early church and that it was something that Jesus considered to be a normal part of the disciplines of those who sought God. We then considered some illustrations from the Old Testament. First, we looked at Moses and then Esther and then David. Today, I would like to consider Nehemiah. Nehemiah was a servant of the king of Persia, Artaxerxes. He was his cupbearer, in a sense, like a butler. Let's read chapter 1 of Nehemiah to consider the place and effect of fasting in Nehemiah's life. Nehemiah chapter 1. The words of Nehemiah, the son of Hachaliah. It came to pass in the month of Kislev, in the 20th year, as I was in Shushan, the citadel, that Hanani, one of my brethren, came with men from Judah. And I asked them concerning the Jews who had escaped, who had survived the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said to me, the survivors who are left from the captivity in the province are there in great distress and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem is also broken down, and its gates are burned with fire. So it was, when I heard these words, that I sat down and wept, and mourned for many days. I was fasting and praying before the God of heaven. And I said, I pray, Yahweh, God of heaven, O great and awesome God, you who keep your covenant and mercy with those who love you and observe your commandments, please let your ear be attentive and your eyes open, that you may hear the prayer of your servant, which I pray before you now, day and night, for the children of Israel, your servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against you. Both my father's house and I have sinned. We have acted very corruptly against you, and have not kept the commandments, the statutes, nor the ordinances, which you have commanded your servant Moses. Remember, I pray, the word that you commanded your servant Moses, saying, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me and keep my commandments and do them, though some of you were cast to the farthest parts of the heavens, yet I will gather them from there and bring them to the place which I have chosen as a dwelling place for my name. Now, these are your servants and your people, whom you have redeemed by your great power and by your strong hand. O Lord, I pray, please let your ear be attentive to the prayer of your servant and to the prayer of your servants who desire to fear your name, and let your servant prosper this day, I pray, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man. For I was the king's cupbearer. Note that Nehemiah fasted and prayed, but that it began as a time of mourning. He had probably already known, as a servant of the king, the state of Jerusalem beforehand. But it had not affected him such as it did now. Now, upon this hearing of the condition of Jerusalem, Nehemiah sat down and he wept. And that transitioned into fasting and praying. And that transitioned into confession of the sins of his people. for many days. What was the result of Nehemiah's time of prayer and fasting? Personal involvement. Personal involvement. Nehemiah began to ask Yahweh for his intervention and involvement. So Yahweh apparently placed that burden upon Nehemiah, because we see by the end of that prayer that Nehemiah's prayer changes to reveal a more personal involvement in the situation, asking now for Yahweh's grace, Yahweh's favor, as he himself then went before the king. Lord willing, in tomorrow's meditation, we'll consider Nehemiah's moment before the king. But for today, consider Nehemiah's transformation through his time of prayer and fasting. I wonder, could it be that many are afraid of this same thing happening to them? Is it that we honestly, truly are comfortable with our position of non-participation, in that we inwardly know that if we were to commit ourselves to a greater level of intensity in our walk with God, that it might involve an even greater commitment and evolve then into our own burden for participation? And that inwardly, honestly, we really don't want that. Yahweh, through his word, we're told, is the discerner of the thoughts and intents of our hearts. Are you willing to ask him about your heart? Are you willing to fast and pray regarding your relationship with him? Are you willing to fast and pray even then regarding the situation of our country? Seeking God's intervention, his mercy, his grace, his compassion, a great awakening. Go before God today, seeking his face, and have a blessed day.